used to know as REC when I was a student. So, and this institution was born in 1964. It was double confirmed today. I knew that before, but and BHEL and REC, which at the time now NIT, were born at the same time. And question why Zoho exists now is all coming from the same roots. If you came in 1964, you have to transport back in time. You looked at this region. You had REC formed, BHEL formed. And you looked at China and Taiwan, South Korea. If you were to place your bets, which one will develop faster, you would have said this Trichy region will develop faster. Not South Korea and not Taiwan, but Trichy region will develop faster. That's the way we would have bet. And then of course Chennai had IIT, which is where I went. And we had a Hindi Engineering College, which is even older. China, Taiwan, South Korea in particular, they didn't have institutions of this stature at that time. They only later developed those. So the critical question for all of us is why did that happen? How did we let that happen? And I want all of you to think about this, because this is the thought that will dominate my own youth. And my youth was dominated, even my teen years, my 12-year-old, 13-year-old. How many of you don't speak Tamil yet? So that's sensible number. So I'm sorry, then I'll have to speak English. But so it's not more than 50, 60 kilometers from here. Of course, you know that Tanjavur temple is maybe what, 15, 20 kilometers from here? Not more than that. But from my village where I was, the nearest temple was Gangaikunda, the big temple, nearest, which is what the son built. The father built the Tanjavur temple, the son built the Gangaikunda temple, which is equally grand, actually, if you ever had a chance to see it. And I'll tell you, this was my maybe 1980, 81, I'm 15-year-old, 14-year-old, and I'm thinking about, I'm going to the temple and I'm thinking, and the temple is completely abandoned, weeds all around. It's not like the temple today, it's actually weeds all around, and it will feel like an archaeological monument. It was an archaeological monument. It was not an actual temple. And then there will be a very lonely sign there. Nobody goes there. Nobody used to go there. I mean, I only go there because my village was nearby. And there was a very lonely post, archaeological survey would say, this was built 1,000 years ago. Then I would wonder if we could build this 1,000 years ago and this stands 1,000 years. Somebody knew civil engineering at that time, architecture at that time. But why couldn't we build it today? This and remember, within the 50, maybe I don't know, 100 kilometers, there is no hill for those rocks to come from. So they had to transport all the stone and the rock quite far, and they had to build this big temple. All made of stone, right? How did they do it? So where did they get the technology from? In fact, this is all over. Yesterday I was in Northneri, near Pindulveri, and I went to a lonely abandoned temple. That temple is mostly abandoned today. The stone formation, the rock inside, mind-blowing. The stone work, the impressive amount of stone work there. In obscure places, you will see an obscure corner, they would have spent a lot of time on that stone. And this was built, I was told, about 900 years ago. That temple. So we had all this, and then we fell, and we don't build anymore, and we didn't build anymore. And not only that, by 1980s, we even lost the capability to build this whole region. We couldn't build it if we wanted to. We didn't have the expertise anymore. So that was my starting point of my own business journey, because I want, these are the questions that led to the company. It's not merely just make some money now. It was these questions that led to the company. So I want you to ask those questions, because that's what will get us there. And I told you this, in 1964, if somebody placed their bet, they would have said Tamil Nadu would be richer than South Korea. But we are not. Why? We have Samsung. I'm sure many of you have Samsung phones here. You go to an equal and Tirchi in South Korea, they don't know about us at all. They don't know anything about us. There is not a single product from here there. Not even much of Zoho. We are present a little bit in South Korea, not a lot. South Korea is not where we are active right now. Why is it that we buy Samsung and they have nothing to buy from us? And we produce all these engineers, all this white, by the way. This college and so many colleges in Shastra, of course. My colleague Akshay is from Shastra, your competition across the road, I assume. Right? So, and I was there in Shastra about 6 years ago. In the competition, I said, Shastra is a well-known university now in India. It will pride itself on alumni all over the world, of course, same with NIT. All the prominent positions, of course, people are present. But the Thanjavur region has remained industrially completely backward. Still today it's true. Thanjavur region, the Thanjavur district and the surrounding other delta districts, Trichy is a little bit higher, but not a whole lot. Trichy is better, but not a whole lot. That is because of BHA and all the derivatives. And why do we have this famous engineering college here and so many here, and we don't have any industry here? So what did the engineering colleges achieve? This phenomenon, I called it, that we became an efficient vacuum cleaner of talent. So the college's purpose is a vacuum cleaner, suck the talent, send it somewhere else. That's what we have done effectively. Remember, the whole purpose of setting it up here, setting it up in Thanjavur, setting it up anywhere, is to develop the region. The purpose is not to deliver the talent somewhere else. That's not the purpose. But that became the purpose. In effect, that's what it became. And entire, there are India has about 833 districts. The number will increase, of course, over time, right? About 830 or so. Maybe 700 are predominantly rural. 650, 700 are rural. In every district, this will be true now. And most districts will have at least one good engineering college. Maybe 7 of them. Most of them are only efficient vacuum cleaners and talent. Right? The region will not have any industry. So I was in North Indian area. The entire, you can go 50 kilometers, 30, 40 kilometers without seeing any kind of industry at all. See that. So I go to a village and I ask, what do young men do here, young women do here? Well, they migrate. That's all they do. They migrate, right? So this is today where we are today. We have to understand where we are. So now we will understand why we are in Tenkasi. Now we have opened in, actually in Tirchi we have a campus, small one coming up. In my own village in Murudisheri, which is on the Thanjavur side of the Kollam River. So Kollam River, if you just cross the river, we get to Kadalur and Ariyur districts. But we are on the southern side. So it's on the edge of both Thanjavur, Ariyur, Kadalur, all of those districts. We have a campus coming up. By the way, nobody will build software there. Nobody has ever built software there. So we are the first one to go and set up something. Now we know why I am doing this. Because the whole point of setting up all these colleges is to actually develop the region. And this develop, I tell you what the cost of this vacuum cleaner of talent is. The cost is that when talented people leave, talented youth leave, and all of you are talented youth, the village, the town, whatever lost, the very people who would have led it to prosperity. It's important, keep that in mind. If there's only one thing you remember, keep that in mind. In other words, you are not there just for your own personal, like I get a good life. There are some 50, 100 people you will leave behind if you leave. When you leave. And The more talented, the more people they left behind. That's how we should think. If somebody is supremely talented, then they left India or they left the region, they left behind 1,000 people, 10,000 people. And those 10,000 people are now stuck with lower quality of life, lower standard of living, all of that. Then you can think, okay, the people who left already had high standard of living. Not really. The high standard of living in terms of maybe monetary unit, but they don't actually achieve their potential in life. Typically, you achieve much better potential in life when you are connecting. See, when you are a student, actually you are thinking your classmates, your entire universe is your classmates, all of that. But there's actually 1,000 other Indians who are your constituency. Think of it that way. Your constituency is not just the people you know around here. And there are a lot of people whose hopes are invested in us, in you now. In me 30 years ago, but in you now. Right? So a lot of people whose hopes are invested in you. And those are not people in this college. Those are not people in IIT. Those are not people in any of these colleges. Those are people whose faces, names you don't know. But they are in a way investing their hopes in you. Because you are the sort of the torch bearer. You are to be the provider of jobs, the thinker who leads the way. That is what really the purpose of this college is. Why do we set up a National Institute of Technology? Why do we call it National Institute of Technology? Why do we call it IIT? All of these. Because that every student eventually is somebody's hope. It's not just for one family eventually. The more talented you are, the more people that you can actually help. And that, I tell you, I've lived that life for now last 30 years in this. I can tell you that it's extremely satisfying. It's a good life. This is a good life. But you can have that good life. But you have to think somewhat different. That you have to, your minds have to open to a different idea, a different thought process. That's what I'm trying to spark here. I'll tell you our fundamental problem. You would have heard this 100 times from me if you watch any videos. In this room, if you take any advanced technology, none of this is invented here. None of this whose patents, whose intellectual property is known by anyone here in our country. The Canon cameras here, the cell phones in your pockets, all of the chips in all of the cell phones, all of the advanced cameras in it, all of it. And none of it is actually known. In some of it, some of our talent in India may have played a role. In a lot of it, the talent who left India would have played a role. But that doesn't really help India. What I mean by India is not abstract India, it's not the central government. What I mean is the average citizen in our villages, in our towns. That person has not been helped by this. That's the problem. Organically, when you say somebody in a village, there is huge unemployment, it is directly related to the fact that our talented people are leaving. It's directly related. I'll tell you how it works. So you don't understand a little bit of economics, and if you think economics is a complicated subject, I'll tell you that it is not, and it is actually most people don't. No, the business way of thinking about economics will make sense to you. It's very easy. For anybody who knows even a little bit of physics, any of that, economics is easy. You draw a circle around Trichy district, Tanjavur district, anything. See what we buy and what we sell. Simple. What do we buy? We buy everything. We buy motorcycles, all this. What do we sell out of here? In fact, in a rural area, it's easier to understand. We sell rice, bags, vegetables, all that. Some bit of tourism, that's what we sell out of Tenkasi. Kutrala waterfalls, people come, spend money. So what we sell is maybe tourism and this. How do we make, and the balance, it's never balanced. We cannot sell 20 rupees a kilogram rice and buy 1 lakh rupees a kilogram smartphone. Okay? We cannot balance. The numbers don't balance. So how do we balance? Very simple. We export people. Hopefully they will remit some income. Kerala's economy has run on that principle. Send people abroad, they will remit. Throughout Kerala, you will find beautiful houses, but no industry. Because people go abroad and remit income. That's one model. And that's what happens to a lot of our small towns, villages. People go to Bangalore, Chennai, maybe Singapore, Dubai, Mumbai, wherever, they make some money and send home. The second is, of course, people go into debt. Lot of debt. If you go to any village, ask a random person, they will have 3, 4 EMI payments now. And then you have government programs, Manrega you would have heard, jobs creation. Government is injecting funds. Now you understand why freebie politics exists. It's because there's no income there. So you have to, you work for somebody who gives it free. Right? There's no income. There are no jobs. What do you do? If somebody promises gas cylinder, you are going to work for that person. So that's the third way. And then finally sell the land. If you go to rural areas, you will see this repeatedly. Somebody would have 3 acres. 5 years later, they'll have 2 acres. 10 years, they'll have 1 acre. 20 years later, they'll be out of the village because they have 0 acres. Why? Because that's how they financed the purchases. Always will be to send somebody to college, for a marriage expense or a medical expense, something or the other. But consumption exceeds the income, so you will sell the assets. The asset is land. So rural land is now increasingly getting consolidated. That's the fourth mechanism. These are the only mechanisms. If you understand physics, flow in and out, fluid dynamics, you will understand this. It's trivial. There's no native income generation there. What exactly is that income? It's very simple. We are consuming stuff, but we are not able to participate in the income of the producer of that stuff. Like we are buying smartphones, but we don't derive income from the production and sale of smartphones. Very simple. We are consuming a lot of things, but we are not participating in the income generated in the production or the value generated in the production. This I figured out early. As an engineering student, I figured out pretty soon that the only way is to get in on that value chain. That's why I became a businessman. That we have to get in on the value chain of production of advanced goods. Well, there is another option. The other option, or traditional option is, well, if you are a Ramana Maharishi, you don't need it. Therefore, you don't go into debt. You consume very little, you consume nothing almost. But we are not Ramana Maharishi. We are consuming stuff. We want the smartphone. We want the MRI scan. All that. So we have no option but to be part of the production process. That very simple. So that is the whole reason for our company even exists. Now once you understood it, you understand what our process will be. We keep on investing in more and more sophisticated R&D. So by now we are investing in language models, we are investing in compilers, we are investing in advanced databases that run on GPUs, not on CPU, GPUs. And we are investing in semiconductor design. We have actually a chip division, most people don't know that. And we are investing in medical instruments. And we are actually now investing in some manufacturing technology, that is sophisticated machines. Because you go to a factory in Coimbatore region, Kogumandalam has lots of factories, it's very industrialized. You go there, you visit the factories, almost none of the machines are made in India. 80-90% of the value of the machines will be coming from abroad. And you have all these engineering colleges. We should be producing those machines. We should be competing for those jobs. We are not. It's coming from Japan, it's coming from Switzerland, it's coming from Germany. It is not coming from India. So we have the factories. And if you ask I visited a factory just 3 weeks ago in Coimbatore. It's a state-of-the-art spinning mill. One of the most advanced spinning mills today. It's a Japanese machine. The spinning is you convert cotton into yarn, the thread, right? And the state-of-the-art machine is made in Japan. He said it's a 2.5 year wait list to get the machine. You place the order, you pay the supplier, and you wait more than 2.5 years to get the machine. It's that high a demand. And I asked him, so why would you wait so long for the machine? He said it helps me cut the labor content by 80%. Otherwise, if there are 10 people required to run that spinning mill, only 2 people are required now. In fact, I saw an entire vast building. There's like 2 or 3 people in the whole building. Just 2 or 3 people, only machines. This was in Coimbatore, right here. So you realize what it did to our country. We eliminated those jobs, good, the spinning machine jobs. But we didn't get the machine production jobs. We didn't get the automation jobs. We don't have the jobs for the engineers who build the machines or the technicians who work on those machines. We have eliminated the machine operators. So we lost jobs net in the process. And what it does to our unemployment situation already, you can imagine, right? So in other words, this is the economics we've been running, that we are importing sophisticated technology that helps eliminate jobs. But since we don't own the technology, all the value is added elsewhere. The value is not added here. And value is added elsewhere. I'll give you an example. One of our own alumni here, I'm sure it's true in NIT, it's true in IIT, 20, 30 years ago alumni, they'll be in a big position. They would have made $100 million in the US. They'll go and donate $20 million to a UC Berkeley or something. $20 million is what? 160 crores. They'll donate it to UC Berkeley. They won't donate it to NIT. Telling you, this is what is happening. And you will read their names in the press and you will feel very happy that they donated to UC Berkeley too. So the value added went to UC Berkeley, it didn't come to Trichy, and none of our people here ever benefited from the equation. You have to remember this. These things matter. It matters where the value goes. It didn't come here. That's all. We produce the talent. This person will have gone through all the education here, all of it. They made money. The value went to UC Berkeley or Stanford or wherever. So that's what, again, and we celebrated success in our country. The Koreans or the Japanese or the Chinese won't celebrate it as success. They think of it as failure. We think of it as success. That's the difference. In fact, recently, just yesterday I read the news. You might have read about sanctions placed on China by America. The most advanced semiconductor technology. So there is this laser, whatever, lithography machines. That's the most advanced technology for semiconductor possible. Only 1 or 2 companies make it in the world. One is Netherlands called ASML. You go look it up, ASML. The second company I believe is in Japan, one of the Canon subsidiaries. Canon, one of those. So, but ASML is ahead. This ASML technology is behind all of your cell phones because you literally cannot make the chips without these machines, these ASML machines. And the leading semiconductor fab in the world is TSMC in Taiwan. They depend on this Netherlands technology. China wants to make their own chips, but they have the lower end fabs. But the most advanced fabs, Americans placed sanctions on them. They did not, they prohibited ASML from selling the technology to Chinese. This has been going on for the last 3 years. The prohibition started 4 years ago. So guess what the Chinese did? They had their own R&D projects in this. They accelerated the R&D. The latest Huawei phones now have chips made by their own process, by their own machines from China. There's a company called Shanghai Laser. And now the Western analysts are realizing the Chinese are almost caught up in that technology. In other words, the American sanctions made the Chinese more determined to catch up. And they have caught up now. In fact, China is no longer a developing country. It's now an advanced economy with industrial capabilities that are many times ahead of the West, ahead of America. In some respects, they are well ahead of everybody else. And all this happened in the last just 25 years. Just 25 years they have caught up. It's R&D, this is a benefit of R&D. In the same 25 years, we have now caught up with Microsoft. We have now capabilities that are equal to Microsoft. So we can build sophisticated compilers. We can make databases run in GPUs. In some areas, we are actually even ahead of Microsoft. Again, R&D. But we would have invested 10, 12 years in some critical products, critical technologies. That's exactly what we need in our country. We have to catch up. And the reason it matters is not that the value accrues only to the engineers. It accrues to our entire ecosystem. it's the drivers, it's the cooks, it's the housekeeping staff. All of them benefit when the high technology jobs are here. In other words, it's important for the high technology jobs to be here because it doesn't benefit just the high technology people. It benefits everybody else. It benefits the farmers. They will get better prices for their crops. Because you will be more discriminating in what you buy. You will want organic produce, you will be willing to pay a higher price for milk and for everything. That benefits the farmer too. So this is why I say the two RDs are connected, R&D and rural development, RD. So research and development and rural development are closely tied. They cannot be separated. If we want true rural development, we have to invest in R&D. We have to own the technologies here, which is why all engineers are produced here. You realize why you are produced now. Your purpose is to bring all the technology home here. Bharatiya, Centrally Electric what Bharatiya said. That's probably the only slogan I have to make. We have to bring every part of technology to India. And I'll finally tell you why the demographics, then I'll open up for questions. I'll also ask my colleague Akshay to speak for a few minutes because by rights Akshay should be in the US. She shouldn't be here. She chose to move to Telugu and she's doing some impressive work there, but I want her to speak herself. But anyway, China produced 9 million babies last year. India produced 23 million babies. India also 20% down from peak. So Indian number of babies is dropping every year. It's dropping about 1.5% every year. So it's not like they're increasing every year. They're actually declining. China is declining even faster. It's only 9 million now. 9 million, that is, you see the difference here, 2.3 crores versus 0.9 crore number of babies. So if you do this over a 70-year period, our population will be more than twice that of China. Which means we actually have two Chinas here. Two Chinas now, if you think about it. Number of kids born, there are two Chinas here. More than two Chinas. In fact, two Chinas plus an America. America only has about 3.5 billion babies. So if you add up twice China plus America, and you add in some Japan and South Korea, you will come to one India. Anyway, that's the number of babies we have. Two Chinas plus an America plus a South Korea plus a Japan. So that's how I think, by the way. I'm always thinking in numbers, right? So that means all of the technologies we should be able to produce. You think about it? Whatever is produced in South Korea and Japan and in America and in China, we should be able to produce. We have the brains, right? We should be able to figure it out. So that should be our goal. In fact, that's the only thing I keep preaching. We should aim to build everything here. Because our population is so large, so vast, we should build everything here. There's no excuse for not building it. But advanced state-of-the-art rockets to robotics to whatever it is. If any human anywhere on the planet conceives something, we should be able to conceive it and build it here. That should be our motto. So with that, I'll ask Akshay to come in and share her story, what her thing was. Please, thank you. She's from your competition, Shastra. So.
Thank you, Sridhar. Hello, everyone. So, as I said, I'm Akshay Savrama. I completed my computer science engineering 8 years ago and joined Zoho. I joined as a software developer, and over the years, I moved to technical writing, and then I was working in Zoho Schools of Learning, which is the post-school program in Zoho, where we give 2-year training to 12th and diploma graduates and take them in as employees of Zoho. So that was what I was doing when COVID hit and we had lockdown. That's when I moved to this village in Tenkasi where Sridhar is in. So my plan was to be there only for 4 weeks. But then that was 2 years ago and I haven't left the village at all. So after being in city for 8 years, though I thought I lived a simple life, I just understood what it actually means to live in a village where there is no Amazon order, this and that. There are no hotels for the next 15-kilometer radius, all those things. So that actually made me look at the people over there and the lives they lead, the simplicity and the actual genuinity they have. It was very impressive. And that's how I slowly got into two projects. One is the Kalevani Kalvimayam school that we have in our village. So we started it during COVID, and now after second year we have 200 students from the age of 2 to 18. And these are the kids from the very village and the surrounding villages. And so as Sridhar says, the demography is in the villages, right? The city folks are not getting kids. And these are the kids that are going to stay in India and they're going to serve our tomorrow. But what kind of learning do they have? That's a very eye-opening question. At the age of 14 and 15, some of them would be not even well versed in Tamil, their mother language, and then the world is in English, right? From cell phones to every product, everything is written in English, and they use the words without even understanding what they mean. So they live in a world they don't understand. That is what I have gathered from being there. I often imagine, what if I'm transported to China or Japan and then I'm asked to survive. So that's the kind of the life these kids are leading. So our school's purpose is to teach them the basics from language and mathematics so that they understand. Without that mathematical prowess, there is no logical thinking over there. So one of our primary goals would be to produce tomorrow's engineers. We are going to build industries there. At some point, semiconductor chips will be produced in Tenkasi, but right now, our school, Kalevani Kalvimayam, for high school kids at least, we have started two-wheeler trade skills like two-wheeler mechanism, AC repairing, TV repairing, and so on. And the children over there are very much interested in learning those things rather than doing a book learning, because they understand doing rather than studying. So that's one important project. Another would be the farm project. So Sridhar was saying, like, everybody would at least own 10 to 20 cents of land. Nowadays it's changing, but most people have a little bit of plot for themselves. So what if they're able to cultivate vegetables and some exotic crops for themselves so that they can earn a little bit of money to get out of the debt. So that's one gardening agriculture, I would call it. Like, with just 10-20 cents of land, is a farmer able to produce all vegetable needs for the family so that they are not spending for those things. So that's another project that I am working on. These 2 years have been quite enlightening, and I hope to continue to do more. And I am actually encouraging all of my friends to come back to villages, visit, and then I understand why I say this, because when I was in the city, I was in Zoho, I was 1 in 4,000, right? But in that village, my presence is making a difference, I could say. I'm not saying it to exaggerate my contribution. It's simply that somebody there listening to them, observing them, and thinking about what they would want and what can be given to them. That presence is making a world of difference to all those children there as well as the farmers. Because the talent is leaving. Even in my own village, see, to ripen a mango, a technique is needed. You cannot just pluck the mango from the tree and keep it so that it ripens. So that talent is leaving. The old people only know that, and the children of those people are not doing those skills anymore. And that talent is leaving. So in our farm, we have mango orchards, but we are not able to ripen those mangoes, and they are going to waste. That is a waste for us, and as well as for the farm workers and for the village over there. So skills that are leaving, and I am actively encouraging the youngsters of those villages to come back to agriculture, to learn the skills of their fathers and their forefathers. So that is what I would say. A single learned person's presence makes a huge difference to those villages. So that's my personal testimony. Thank you.
That's what happened our jobs to small places, so that we can integrate R&D and RD. I said R&D and RD we have to integrate. That's one sentence description of what we are trying to do. We want these R&D jobs that are high paying, global technology jobs. Really are, right? But on the other hand, I also am encouraging our engineers to be part-time farmers. Take active participation in the rural life, in the local life. Build, from schools to all of that. We can hire teachers, but we still need people with advanced skills to where it's going, how is our education going to go. Like we need workshops, we need these machines, we need these computers. Somebody has to design those. Those skills are in short supply in rural areas. For example, our entire southern districts, I found out, doesn't have a single doctor for hematology, blood cancer. That's an example. You come to all the southern districts, they don't have a. You want a hematologist, you have to come to Madurai or to Chennai. So that's the situation in villages even now, rural areas. So we have to bring talent back, and we can only bring it back if we connect the technology development, R&D, and the rural development. So that's my pitch. Now I am open for questions. I'll be here for some time. Please feel free to ask, shoot at good questions. Thank you.
Is that the second idea of ma'am was my question, which is that
She will get upset with all that. So we all use names.
the thing was that how to manage both rural development and the corporate development. This is like everyone in India right now, within this 10 years, the corporate development was very massive. But whereas the other side is rural development, which relates with agricultural development, which ma'am was speaking about. Like without food, there is no human, right? In that way, our India is coming down. So that was my question. Like, if everything here, our economy, about 80% of our economy, if we get it from other companies or corporates like that, agriculture. If you speak about agriculture, basically like the high quality products, number one products are there, right? It's going abroad. Only the second quality or the third quality products is coming down, which is selling in India. Like, why is corporate companies like only focusing on information technology and things like that? Why it is not focusing about the other side of humanity or other need of humanity? That is my question.
In general, India's investment in R&D is very low, particularly private sector investment. That's what I really mean. See, by R&D, I don't mean that somebody wins a Nobel Prize. Actually, the Koreans almost never win Nobel Prizes. Korea has the most advanced technology in many areas. Most industrial R&D is very specific to how do you improve this camera, how do you improve the lighting, that very low light camera. These are not done in universities. These are done in industrial labs. These are very specific techniques. Like I have built a compiler now. There is not a computer science professor who have these ideas because we are very specific. We are looking at a lot of the things we are doing and we are optimizing the compiler. That's very similar in the Google or Microsoft area. So most interesting R&D now happens in industry. And what Western companies have done is they have created a good linkage between the university and the industry where there are a lot of internships. But in India, by and large, our private sector is not investing in R&D enough. That's a problem we have to solve. And in GDP terms, China will invest more than 4 or 5% of GDP in R&D. India is 0.5% of GDP. So it gives you a kind of relative comparison. Even that 0.5% predominantly in government research labs, DRDO or SICRI in Karikuri, all that. Well, SICRI is a good example. We have had an electrochemical research institute in Karikuri, not far from here, right? Battery technology. Basically, electrochemistry is batteries. We have had really good scientists there. But India is importing most of the batteries we need for our electric vehicles. All. We have had the SICRI for multiple decades. We have had that right here in Karikuri. Why did we not become a leading supplier of batteries in the whole world? These are the questions we must ask ourselves. Having that R&D lab there in government sector was not enough. We needed industries. We need industries who are making money connecting to the government. That we lacked. Simply we produce talent and we export it. That battery R&D people will go to Germany. They'll go to US. That's about it. And the Karaguri region will still stay poor mostly. So that's what happened to us. And so we need to connect back. That's why I mentioned we need R&D projects. But here's another interesting thing. R&D is not that expensive. R&D is not that expensive. For example, to work on this camera R&D, I bet that $20 million, $30 million, something like that spread over a 5-10 year period is actually good to make really good breakthroughs. It doesn't require $2 billion. Why I'm saying it is this kind of money is available in our corporate houses. It's not that R&D is expensive so people are not investing. The mindset has to be different. So to do R&D, you have to have a culture of R&D. Most of our companies do not have that culture. That's the only difference. Though you saw that she referred to me by name, everybody is required to call me by name. Everybody has the same lunch. Everybody sits together. I am sitting and coding still. Why? Because in R&D that's how the culture has to be. If you have too much hierarchy, you can't do R&D. Information cannot flow freely. So we have to create an R&D culture in our company. And we have to do that in rural areas because that R&D jobs can be quite high impact. Because the leverage is very high. You create some technology, the amounts of money you make is incredible. Like you may invest $3-4 million, you can produce cash flows of $30 million, $50 million. But that money has to accrue to our rural areas so that it can develop other things. That's the key. And today, it's not coming back here. Even if our people are working in R&D abroad, the value generated is not coming back. That's the problem. So that's the connection between R&D and R&D we have to create. We have to create a culture of R&D. Then why invest in farming? I tell you. Well, we consume the food. Today we are consuming a lot of poison in the way of food. Very pesticide-laden food. One index of that is the leading growth sector in Tamil Nadu now is fertility clinics. Annual growth rate of 40-50% in fertility clinics. So increasingly, one of the reasons our number of births in our state is falling so rapidly is people are not able to have children. This is shocking. Shocking actually for, if you have observed this phenomenon, it is shocking. And the reason is bad food mostly. And of course other bad lifestyle, all of that come along with it. But first and foremost, bad food. Highly, processed, industrialized food we are eating. So if we have to revive even our own bodies well, we have to treat the land well, we have to connect back with nature, all of that. So that's why R&D and R&D are together. Next question, please. Yeah.
Hello, sir. Amar this side from NIT Trichy. So my question is regarding how much impact has Zoho seen with the advent of AI and related technologies, and what is the mode in terms of SaaS businesses now? Is it just distribution or customer experience in terms of that?
First, I'll come to the second question first. We had a huge bubble in SaaS. We had lots of money poured into it. Lots of venture capital flew into it. But a lot of it has left out. Venture capital investment in India has dropped by maybe about 80%, 70%. It was inevitable because it was a massive bubble. See, what happened was everybody crowded into SaaS. Because it's a hot sector. And whenever anybody crowds into SaaS or batteries or optical networks or whatever it is, robotics, whatever, things crash eventually. It doesn't matter what sector it is, however hot it is. If too many companies are doing it, eventually crash. So this actually, I saw this 24 years ago in Silicon Valley. There was a dot-com bubble you would have heard of. There was also a telecom bubble. In fact, I'll tell you some stats, you'll be surprised. In 1999, the leading technology of the era was optical networking, optical communications. The dream was that the entire world will be connected by fiber optics, high-speed fiber optics, broadband everywhere. So about 400 companies were born in Silicon Valley alone in 97, 98, 99, all that. I know because I sold software to a lot of them. So I personally knew at least about 200 companies because I had actually gone and visited and sold software. Even I used to wonder, how can all these companies survive? They're all doing the same kind of stuff. Can 300 some companies survive in the sector? I didn't know enough at the time. And I asked the right question because in about a year and a half, 2 years later, 99% of the companies vanished. 99%, not kidding. Of the 300, 400 companies, maybe 2 or 3 are left now. Cisco would be one of them. But there's a couple of small ones left there in the area. There's practically no optical networking companies in Silicon Valley now. And yet, my village in Tenkasi now has 2 fiber optic links, each 250 megabit per second. So the optical dream was achieved. Everybody got optical connection. I got one in Tenkasi. So, in other words, 25 years later, all the world is now, even rural areas have optical connections. But the companies that bet on it died. So, in other words, SaaS is a real trend. But we have too many companies chasing it, too much capital chasing it, it will die. That's it's more important to realize the economics. This happens in every sector where there's a massive influx of capital, and then there is a bubble, and then there's a bust. We are proceeding in the bust now. You saw the layoffs, all that, but the bust is not done. Unfortunately, the bust will have its own time to do the job. So, just yet another SaaS company is not going to cut it. There are too many SaaS companies doing the same thing again and again. But on the other hand, there's a lot of other, and now I'll come to the AI question. Today there's an AI bubble. The same phenomena are at work in AI today as it was in SaaS 4 or 5 years, 7 years ago. Too many companies. Everybody is an AI company, right? Again, there's bubble. It's a bubble. VCs are throwing money at AI. It will bust. In fact, already it's bursting in Silicon Valley. Some AI companies have started laying off that. So, issue is not that AI is bad. This is not about whether SaaS is a good technology or not. This is not about whether AI is a good technology or not. The question is too many companies are chasing. So you have to understand the economics along with the technology to be able to figure this out. When there is a bubble, it leads to a bust. The bigger the bubble, the bigger the bust. So it's useful to understand. It's useful to understand which companies have a durable business model. Today in AI, you look at LLMs. There are 2 trends that are visible. One is, okay, how many of you are using ChatGPT daily now? How many of you used it for a few weeks and then reduced the usage? So I'm in that camp. I've reduced my usage. Not because I wanted to reduce the usage. After some time, it kind of is a cute tool, but I don't know what it's going to do a lot for me. It's like a very nice Wikipedia. You can ask a lot of questions. It will give you some intelligent sounding answers, because sometimes it will be wrong. That's why it's an intelligent sounding. Because it will also confidently make mistakes. And so, in other words, it's a useful tool. But there is no obvious path to how it is correct. So the leading R&D is now how to make these tools produce correct outputs. No hallucination. No false information, right? I mean, materially, clearly false information, not opinion. For example, you ask it, different people, 10 of you go and do this test. Ask them where I got my PhD. About 7 out of 10 times will give you the correct answer. 3 out of 10 times will give you the wrong answer. How can you trust? And you know why? If you understand the technology, you know why. Because it's predicting the next token. We obtained a PhD from. After that, the token has been predicted. It will predict Princeton with the correct 80% probability. But with 20% probability, it will give you some other university, Stanford or something. And it has a temperature parameter, which will make sure that you don't pick the most likely all the time. You don't pick the 80% all the time. Sometimes you will pick the 20% answer. The temperature varies. The temperature you can vary. The temperature is the creative parameter, they call it in these LLMs. The next token is predicted with some probability. You pick a lower probability output with a higher likelihood, that is the temperature parameter. Sometimes you will take the less traveled path. That's what it means. And that is needed for the network to be created. Otherwise, it will give you stale, boring answers. But the creativity also means it makes up stuff. It doesn't know when not to be creative. Meaning it knows it can be creative. But what if it's creative with facts? Facts cannot be creative. No? You have to state the facts. Unfortunately, the network doesn't work. So, same thing with code. If you try it for Python or something, you produce good code. You can also confidently produce bad code, incorrect code. At least in code, it's actually good that you can test it, whether it runs or not. So, actually the first job I think will be automated eventually by AI, mostly will be software programming. I think in programming, 10 to 100 times productivity is possible. 10 to 100 times. And you will realize if you are in software development, professional development, you will realize why. Most of the job of a software engineer is actually boring. Most people in software are not doing algorithm development or inventing algorithms or anything like that. Most of the people are moving data from this to that and doing bookkeeping of data. That's it. In other words, most software jobs are actually automated. And I believe that's coming up. The LLMs, most of the job of software development is going to be automated. So I am preparing our own company for the future. So I've told our engineers, and this development will be as radical as how handloom weavers were displaced by the power looms. Today our software engineers are like handloom weavers of wool. They are hand weaving code together. Power looms are coming. I mentioned compiler technology. That's part of our power loom process is how to automate a lot of this. So we are doing that ourselves, but LLMs add another dimension to it. So AI, I think software development will be one critical area where will be automated. And so, which means that it could also have an impact in terms of what is the price paid for software. When too much of something is produced, you know what happens, prices crash from the thing. So if software is automated, what happens to software prices? And I'm a software company, I'm saying this, so you should be worried. And our friend here, Dinamala newspaper, he knows the cycles, Gopalji. He knows these cycles in the newspaper industry. The same thing, what happened to journalism? When online things came, journalism got hit, newspapers got hit. So nobody is immune to these forces. Okay? Software engineer, I tell our own engineers, don't assume we are immune from all these forces. So we are potentially, but I tell you, so somebody clever may ask me, if all jobs are automated, what will you do? How many of you have watched Star Trek? 1%. So this is a science fiction kind of a series. I'm sure it's there in Netflix. You can watch it. So they have this thing called replicator. So the replicator is a device, like it looks like a microwave oven. You go and say, give me the latest iPhone, it will materialize it. So in the Star Trek universe, there is no jobs, there is no economy. You just go to the replicator and ask for something, it will give you. It will replicate it for you. That's why it's called a replicator. So obviously, no technology can be better than a replicator. If there are no jobs, imagine machines do all the work. Then what do humans do? I am not actually worried about the problem at all. The air we breathe is free. They don't charge us for the air, right? Do we complain that the air is free? So if all the goods are free, it's not the problem. The problem is who owns the technology. Do we pay for it or do we get it free? That's the question. So in other words, the economics question is not that something becomes free. Software becomes free, it's not a problem for people who are not deriving income from software. It's okay. But what is the problem is, who owns the technology of the machine? The profit will go to them. Which is why the AI technology, the robotic technology, we have to go to India. Because the profit comes here, it will be redistributed well, locally. Otherwise, it will be redistributed in Japan. It will be redistributed in Germany, not here. That's the question we have to ask. So that's why it is critical to own critical technologies here. It's very important, highly important. But a lot of areas of automation are coming, particularly in software development, but potentially in other areas as well. And I told you already, the spinning mill, 80% of jobs in spinning mills are and weaving, the same thing. Next, garment. See, the biggest job created in textile is stitching together your shirts and all that. They are already inventing machines where those jobs are going to go. But I'm not worried about the jobs. I'm worried about who owns the technology, who owns the profit. If that is owned here, then we won't have a serious problem. Next one.
Hi Sridhar, thanks for presenting a very different perspective. I'm Prashna from CSE actually. So I read somewhere that India's IT export is actually more than Saudi Arabia's oil export. While we have done it in a very short span of time, 30 decades, and it's something to be proud of. But then there's also an alarming thing because 3 decades in this industry, and we haven't invested heavily in this particular R&D. Why is it that we always jump into the bandwagon very lately? Because a boom happens in US, and post that, when it's about to saturate, we start with the trend in India. Why is it that happening always? Is it because of the basic mindset we have as people? And second part of the question is...
Actually, I'll first answer the question, then the second one. There's nothing wrong with us. What happened is the English language. I'm going to explain. See, we are Indians uniquely. When you go to the US, you realize it. In the US, nobody expects, Americans don't expect you to speak English when you come from abroad. The Chinese don't, the Koreans don't, the Japanese don't, the Russians don't, the Germans don't, the French don't. Only we do. So we very easily fit into US, right? That is the core part of the problem. Because the Koreans have no option but to invent, because they are not going to easily find a job in America. So it was very easy to export our talent. So every time the people who would have asked the question got exported easily. And you do this for generations, you perpetually stay behind here. And you celebrate that our people are CEOs abroad. But it doesn't done anything for this region, right? You go around Tanjavur, you won't find any jobs. You go to villages, desperation for jobs, desperation, really desperation. I mean the word. So, and because we exported the people, entire villages are completely the vacuum cleaned of talent, the top side erosion. Lot of it is, see, I can go deeper into this. Our English language addiction is part of the problem. It's not part of the solution. In fact, you may be thinking that, why can't all of us speak English? You go to any of the villages, my village has about 2,000 people. Not even 2 people will speak English. This is in Tamil Nadu. Not even 2. You go north. How many of you are from UP here? You know the statistics, right? How many people in your region will speak English? UP. Probably 0.1%. 0.1%. And so there is no way, no country in the entire world has developed by adopting somebody else's language. In fact, I tell you this, Estonia has 1.3 million people. Same population as Trichy district. Tenkasi district. It's one district, it's a country. They speak their own language. Everything locally happens in their language. Finland has about 3-4 million people. That's about two districts. Put Tanjavur and Trichy together, that's Finland, by the way. And you put 4 districts together, that's Israel. Israel has only 9 million people. And Israel does all the sophisticated technology, including a lot of technology we buy, in Hebrew. And Hebrew was a dead language. They revived it. Hebrew was completely dead 50 years ago, 60, 70 years ago. They revived it. So and they revived it, they built technology with it, and we buy the technology. There is a lot of defeatist people in India who will tell you, oh, how will all the Indians communicate? Tamil Nadu alone has 8 crore people. Israel only has 9 million people, that is one, not even a tenth. 80 million versus 8 million, yeah, tenth. 1/10 of the population, they are able to do technology. We think we cannot do technology in Tamil, we cannot do in Telugu, we cannot do in Kannada, we can only do in English. That's a false mindset. In other words, if I were to send the clock back in 1947, I would have first purged the English language. That's what many of these countries did by then. When they gained independence, they threw out their language also along with the invaders. We didn't do that. Big mistake. Because see, we celebrate that our people are abroad. Chinese are also abroad, by the way. There's a vast Chinese diaspora in the US. They didn't go there because they knew English. They went there because they had technical skills. They go there and they learn English. So English language is not a huge help to us. It's a huge curse on us because we end up simulating all the thoughts of what works abroad, not what works here. That's the problem. So it's a mindset itself we have to alter. We have to change. So in effect, we have to regain ourselves in every way. Without it, there is no progress possible. Why I am sitting in the rural areas, in my village, in all the regions, these are not controversial issues. Nobody worries about this because nobody speaks English anyway. And I am going to UP soon. Nobody will speak English there. We are going to Solbatra district, by the way. So nobody will speak English there. I know because I went there. So I am actually learning Hindi now. I don't speak Hindi, but I am learning because we are going to go there now. In other words, there is enough of India, vast majority of India, not enough, vast majority, vast majority, where English is not going to be common, will never be common. After 75 years, we haven't taught English to all these people. We will never teach this. It will never happen. But we have to revive our language. That's the next thing.
One more thing with respect to Zoho's products. You said you are building your own LLM. So you are integrating with your CRM model so that you can automate all the tasks. And second thing is, while speaking, you were telling about the person who's building the technology. While you were stressing so much on profit, but the other thing is the fact he feeds into his own LLMs and AI. So when you are building your own LLM for fact checking or for other purposes, are you planning to open source it in the future, or you are holding it as an intellectual property of Zoho?
Right now we are actually only building all open source developments. We are not actually doing new, but we are going to invest in some original technology as well. But the technology will not look like LLMs. It may look like a compiler. So in other words, you have to realize multiple different distinct technologies will have to be combined together in order to ensure correctness. Why correctness? It's a compiler that's checking language correctness. When you think about it. What is the compiler doing? Is your Python program or Java program or whatever is correct? Correct in at least a minimal sense, not correct bug free, but at least it compiles, right? So that part actually can be lifted up to ensure factual correctness. And it goes into deep into technical weeds. I'll go into that, but that's really you have to combine LLM this way and correctness checking the other way. And then there is a SAT solvers, you would have heard of, SAT solvers. And all those have to be combined.
Hello sir, my name is Arya Bode. I want to ask two questions. So like nowadays economic slowdown is going on. So how does new startups and upcoming startups should work on this so that they didn't get busted?
So one of the first things I'll tell you, there is always opportunity. First, you don't want to feel despondent because when you think Bill Gates already won, right? Or Zoho already won. You know, in 30 or 40 years I'll be dead anyway, right? You will be alive. So there will always be new companies. Think about it that way. Because there is, old companies will slowly go older and die. So at some point new companies will be born. But it's not like a new company immediately replaces the old company. What happens is, you organically build it up. So if you take that attitude, sometimes your direct entry into some critical technology is direct entry. You do something tangential. You do something, in other words, you don't want to enter pharma market by producing cancer drugs. You enter by maybe producing vitamin pills. You start there. And you slowly build up that capabilities. That's how I'll recommend to any startup, because that's what I do. On the other hand, there is a whole, you can take steroids and grow this fast. That's an easy model. Mostly that model hasn't really worked well in India. I'll explain why Silicon Valley works and it doesn't work in India. Because I studied Silicon Valley quite a bit, right? If you are a new startup, hot startup in something, the hottest person is there in Thailand. The hottest person in Bangalore. The hottest person is there in Trichy. They'll simply buy that person, right? Are you going to be able to buy that person in Thailand or Iran or wherever in Trichy? No, absolutely no. You cannot even bring a person from Bangalore to Trichy, right? They won't come. Not even Bangalore has the privilege that they cannot simply get a person from Iran or Russia or wherever into Bangalore easily. They won't move. It's not about money. They won't move. So it's actually that ability to acquire talent, acquire is the right word, acquire for money, that is a steroid basically. You can very quickly build up stuff. But it also works in the reverse direction. Easy come, easy go. Most of the talent doesn't stay. And I'll give you this interesting piece of info. Zoho now has more experienced people in Zoho Mail than Google has in Gmail. You may not believe it. So what happened to all the people who did Gmail? None of them are there. They have relatively inexperienced people in Gmail now compared to Zoho Mail now. Same thing. Zoho has more people experienced in CRM now than Salesforce in their CRM. So we are actually now innovating faster than them. It's already visible. If you compare the products, it's already visible. In fact, Zoho Writer is moving faster than Google Zoom, Google Docs. Why it's going faster is we have more experienced people now. It's not like we started with more experienced people. They started with more experienced people. But the easy come, easy go, the steroid model, the steroid wore off. Then you're back to square one. And you repeatedly take steroids, your body gets screwed. That's what happens to these companies. They have abused steroids for so long they can't compete. In fact, if you ask why the Japanese won in many industries, the steroid model has a shelf life. That's what happened. Too many companies don't know that if you take steroids like this, it will destroy the corporate body. So the hard growth they promise will work for maybe 10 years. It stops working in 12, 13 years. Then in 25 years, the company is dead. Finished. So that's why you have to realize what kind of company you are building. And we are a steady player. Now, 27 years in a lot of areas, we have a very strong expertise. But it took us all these years. But it's fun building it up. I wouldn't say there was any time where we were despondent. It's always fun building new stuff. We're always building new stuff. Zoho is a perpetual startup in a way because we're always building new stuff. All the time. Like the next 3 months, there will be 10 new products will launch. So many that, sometimes I can't keep track. Like sometimes I'll see in the news that we have launched a product. Seriously, that's what happens these days. I ask engineers, guys, why don't you show me a demo once in a while, Go on, next.
Hello sir, my name is Gaurav. So my concern is about the rising pollution because a lot of companies are there who keeps on increasing their products without keeping these things. So a lot of European countries, especially California, is working on this concept like carbon trading and carbon credits. So how do you think what I want to know what your thought on this concept and how do you see it in the next 5 years?
My own thought is actually fairly radical. If we don't practice humility and contentment in our lives, we don't have any hope for this planet. We are slowly, it's obvious now, by your generation it should be obvious. The oceans are overfished. Global warming is real. It's getting hotter. And I talked about the fertility centers. They're destroying our food sources. So we have to tackle these problems in a holistic way, and the only solution is, it's not all this sophisticated carbon trading, this and that. It's also, what do we consume? How much do we need? You have to ask these questions. It's not about money. I can afford to park 200 cars in my garage. Should I park 200 cars in my garage? This is a question I have to ask, right? But I can afford to burn 5,000 liters of diesel every day. Should I burn 5,000 liters of diesel every day? These are the questions we have to ask ourselves. It's not about effort. It's about what the planet can afford. So that requires humility and contentment. Unfortunately, the entirety of economics militates against this idea of contentment. Your notion of GDP itself is against contentment. So we have to rethink even how we practice economics. This is why when say Bharat as Vishwaguru, these ideas are intrinsic in our soil. This idea of contented way of life. See, civilization has survived 5,000 years here because our ancestors were contented and they were humble. So humility and contentment, the whole world needs. It's not about, Americans can afford it anymore. Nobody can afford it. We know that majority of the western states of America, they have gone so far down into the rock for our water, they go 1,000 feet, 1,500 feet now. And that water is full of arsenic. It's not just here. It's not just in our districts. So, which means we cannot do that anymore. We cannot keep on extracting more water. All of these issues are tackled holistically. Fundamentally, it requires us to rethink our way of life itself. So I talked about technologies, I didn't talk about this, but part of my rural initiative is also to connect us back to nature. Live in accordance with nature.
Yeah. So I want to know about from the company perspective, because company can't stop their production now. So how do you see it in that way?
So companies will have to redesign so that the product is recyclable or they take it back. So European laws are now forcing manufacturers to take it back. Such laws are coming to India too. But also build long-lasting stuff. Don't build stuff that will obsolete in 5 years. Build stuff that will last 40 years. Those ideas are coming back. See, it may appear like they are all gone, but no, they will come back because of this environmental issues. But simpler lifestyles are coming back because of the environment, nature. So, what time is it now? I think we should maybe one last question or maybe a couple of them. I'll take it. Can we go? Yeah.
Sir, first of all, I would say that your talk was very inspirational. I'm also founding a startup. I read in an article that as entrepreneurs, we should be doing right things at right time, at the right place, in the right way. So as an young entrepreneur, how do we know what is the right time and the right way?
One of it is by close observation. See, there's not a universal truth in this where you can write a manual and applies for everybody. You have to listen to your own customer base, your own employees, what are the context. So, truth is contextual, that's what we say. Normally, business truth is very contextual. Your context determines the truth, where you are. So, you have to listen to that. And if you leave ego out of this, you will find the truth. Very often, the truth is staring at us, but our ego will prevent us from seeing it. By ego, I mean that maybe sometimes pride. Ego is not just pride. Maybe your sorrow and accepting it. That is a sad answer, I won't accept it. Even that sometimes will prevent us from seeing it. If you purge all this, sometimes the truth will stare us in the face and we will see it. It's not that difficult, it's just that we have to purge the personal ego. It's not about me. Then you think about it and you will discover the things. Ultimately, a business is not just a journey of numbers. It's also like a philosophical journey. You are discovering truths. What is philosophy? Discovering truths. So you'll find that you will discover those truths. Good luck. One last question, please. Sometimes it's coming back.
Myself, Kushal. When I heard that Zoho was setting up offices in rural area, it was really inspiring to me. And I always wondered what are the issues they face, because it's something new that companies didn't do it before. Issues in challenges, especially in terms of talent acquisition, as you mentioned before.
So we don't acquire talent, we create and nurture talent. So we invest in creating talent locally, nurturing the talent. When we do that, other talent wants to come there. It's not like we don't hire anybody from outside. In fact, there are people from NIT in Zoho in rural areas. But they would have come by themselves, they would have liked it, they would have come. But when we create and nurture talent, even already people who are already talented come to take it from. It's an interesting part. If you think of it as acquiring talent, well, you will forever be acquiring talent. and release the talent, acquire and sell talent. That's what happened. So think in terms of creating anything. That will make sense. Okay, thank you. With that, I want to thank you all.